Hi children, till now I gave two lectures. In the first lecture, I explained about what is life and what are the defining characteristics of a living organism. In my second lecture, I explained about what are the non-defining characteristics of living organism. Now, in the third lecture, that means today's lecture, I wanted to explain about what is taxonomy and systematics. Now, let's start. Taxonomy. This word taxonomy, it is derived from two Greek words. They are, the first one is taxus and the second one is normus. Taxus means arrangement and normus means law. Whereas this particular word taxonomy, it is given by a famous scientist. His name is A.P.D. Candolle. In his book called Theories Elementaire de la Botanique. Don't worry, you need not to remember this book name. Just you remember the scientist name. Just I wanted to give some piece of information. Only to give information, I mentioned this book name. Don't worry at all. And you need not to remember this book name. But please remember this scientist name. So the word taxonomy, it is given by A.P.D. Candolle in his book Theories Elementaire de la Botanique, which if you translate it in English, then the name of that book will be Theory of Elementary Botany. That means he's basically he wrote and also published his book in Greek language. That's why this is the name of the book, which is given in Greek language. Whereas when you convert it or translate this book name into English, and it means Theory of Elementary Biology. Whereas what is taxonomy? Taxonomy, how can we define? Let us come to that point. Taxonomy is the study of principles and procedure of classification. That means how you are doing the classification and what all the concepts that you need to follow while you are classifying an individual, and what is the procedure of a classification. That study, it is called as taxonomy. Whereas father of taxonomy, you must be knowing, because he's a very popular scientist, that is Carolus Linnaeus. So hope you know. Now, taxonomy, it is based on three steps. The first step, it is identification, and the second step is nomenclature, and the third step is classification. Let us take one after one. The first one is identification. Identification means it is a process by which organism is recognized from other organism which is already, that means already known organism. Now you found a new organism. Now this new organism, it is compared to already known organism. So by comparing these two organisms, which organism it is resembling more, in that particular group you will place it. For example, you got one object. Now if you wanted to keep this particular object somewhere in a group, then how do you keep this object in any of the particular group? For example, this is like it is having some color. So the opposite or the other groups, one is orange and one is red. Now the object, the new object what you got, it is a red color. So this new object you will place it in red color group. Hope you are understanding it. That means when you found a new organism, now you start comparing with already existing organism groups, and this new organism, which group it is resembling, and in that particular group you will place it, and that is called as identification. Hope you understand. Now the second step is nomenclature. Now this identified organism, you have to give some name, and this procedure of giving a name to that particular organism is called as nomenclature. And the third very important step is classification. Classification means grouping the organisms based on similarities and also dissimilarities. Here only many of the students they will confuse. When you are classifying the organisms into small groups, then usually we will start thinking about the similarities. Then you definitely get a confusion that why we have to take dissimilarities. This is actually a very big question, because this is a question for me especially many students asked, why we have to take dissimilarities. Now I'm clarifying this particular doubt, so please listen carefully. But still, if you have any doubt, you can immediately message me. I immediately answer you whenever I see. Why we have to take dissimilarities also into consideration. Now, I'll take a small example, easy example, then you will clearly understand why we have to take dissimilarities also. Now, one bird you take, let us take just for easy example, you take some pigeon. Now you take a mammal, that is a bat. Now if you follow only similarities, then definitely you will place this bat also under this particular birds. Why? Because what you think, if you take only similarities, what you usually think, it is also having it is having this wings. Yes, pigeon it is having wings, and bats are also having wings. Now it is flying and it is also flying. So birds are also flying and bats are also flying. So these are the similarities. So immediately you will place this particular bat in this bird category. But if you take dissimilarities, then you will get to know what is the exact classification. For example, what are the dissimilarities? Now if you take the birds, the bird wings are made up of feathers, whereas in bat the wings are made up of patagium. Whereas the body of the bird it is covered by feathers, whereas the body of this particular bat it is covered by this hair, which is a characteristic property of mammal. Now if you take bird which is having beak and it is a toothless, that means it is not having any tooth. Whereas this bats, if you open its mouth carefully, then you can be able to see some small small teeth, this which are called as homodont teeth, because all the teeth they are similar in the arrangement and pattern. That's why it is called as homodont teeth. For example, if you take our teeth, our teeth can be described as heterodont teeth. Why? If you take clearly, if you observe properly, if you observe, our teeth are of different types: incisors, canines, molars and premolars. So these are the four types of teeth which are present in our mouth. Whereas if you take some other organisms like amphibians, frog and also this particular bats, you can be able to see this homodont teeth. Now whereas this toothless beak it is present in this birds, that means aves. Whereas this particular mouth which is having the tooth, it is a characteristic property of this mammalians. So when you are classifying the organisms, hope by now you must have understood why we have to take dissimilarities. If you follow only similarities, definitely you will be mistaken. Definitely this particular bat also comes under the aves, because both are flying and both are having wings. But you have taken the dissimilarities, that's why you placed this bat under mammal and pigeon under aves. That's why I'm again clearly clarifying you that classification means it's grouping of individuals based on similarities and also dissimilarities. Hope you understand. Now the next one is systematics. Hope you know, hope you remember today's our topic is taxonomy and systematics. Till now we explained about taxonomy. Now I am going to explain about what is systematics. Systematics, this word was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. Hope you remember, just 5 minutes back only I explained who is Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus, you can read it here. He is a father of taxonomy. Whereas that Carolus Linnaeus, he also proposed this word systematics. Whereas this word systematics also, how the taxonomy word, it is derived from Greek. This systematics word also, it is derived from Latin word. That Latin word is a systema. Systema basically means arrangement of organisms. Whereas what, how do you define the systematics? The procedure of classification of organism is called as systematics. That means which procedure you need to follow while you are classifying the organisms, and that procedure, that process of classification, it is called as systematics. Whereas again the systematics are of two types. What are they? The first one is old systematics, or you can also call it as classical systematics, and the second one is neo or new systematics. Now let us start this particular old systematics. Old systematics, this word, it is actually given, or it is proposed by Simpson. Whereas what is the meaning of old systematics? Grouping the organisms based on the morphological characters. That means you are taking the external features of an organism. Hope you know what is the meaning of morphological characters. Morphological characters means taking the external characteristics of an organism. For example, one organism is there, he's tall, or he's short. That means you are describing that particular person externally. You can clearly see that person is tall, or that person is dwarf, that person is fair, or that person is a little dark, or maybe wheatish color, or that person hair, it is black or gray color. That means we are describing this particular person in terms of his external characters. So basis on the basis of this external characters, in old systematics the classification is done. And of course the second criteria of the old systematics is evolutionary basis. That means how the organisms are connected to each other, and based on these two criterias the old systematics is based on. Whereas neo-systematics, it is given by Huxley. Whereas neo-systematics, it is based on evolutionary and genetic relationship than the morphological characters. That means here the more priority is given to evolutionary and genetic relationship, but less priority is given to the morphological characters. So external characters, they little kept it aside, and more they focused on evolutionary and genetic relationship. That means how the characters are originated, and how these characters will be transmitted from one generation to another generation, and how these organisms, they evolved from one group to another group. And it is truly it's a fact, it is already proven fact that amphibians are the group of individuals which are formed from this Pisces, that means fishes. And reptiles are formed from these amphibians, and from reptiles these aves are formed. That means this formation, this connection between one group of organisms to another group of organism, that is called as evolutionary relationship. Hope you understand. So old systematics given more priority to the morphological characters and evolution, whereas in new systematics they gave more priority to evolutionary and genetic relationship, and little less priority to this morphological characters, that means external characters. Hope you understand the difference between this old and new systematics, and who proposed these systematics. Hope you understand. Now, biodiversity. Biodiversity basically means this earth planet, it is having variety of animals and plants, so many animals, so many groups of this particular species you can be able to see on this earth planet. And every organism is on this earth planet is unique. No organism, see, we are all human beings, are we resembling each other? Of course, except in movies. Movies may heroes and fathers they resemble, but I am talking about the practical life. In practical life, very rarely you can be able to see similarities. Even twins are also not exactly similar. exactly identical. For example, if they may look identical, but you can be able to see so many genetic variations in them. That means no organism is similar. Every organism and every organism behavior here, it is unique. We see, for example, you are having your brother or sister. Maybe your sister may like sweet, and you like to eat more spicy things, or you like some blue color and she may like some yellow color. See, that means you are brother and sisters, but still you can't be able to have the same ideology, same choices, same ideas. Hope you are understanding. That means every organism is unique. And sometimes your brother may be more taller than you. Sometimes your brother is small than you. That means you are the ones who are your parents gave birth to you. That means you share the common evolutionary pathway, but still you don't exactly resemble each other. So this uniqueness, it makes the foundation for this biodiversity. Hope it is clear. Now, let us take the next point. There are about 1.7 to 1.8 million types of living organisms on this earth planet, out of which 1.2 million are animals and zero point 0.5 million are plants. See how many species that are present on this earth planet. Just imagine. Whereas these particular organisms are restricted to a certain geographical area. For example, kangaroos are there and they're restricted to Australia. Whereas the some organisms are there which are present in the cold regions. Now that organisms you never can be able to see in the normal temperature region, temperate climatic condition. That means these organisms are restricted to specific geographical location, and this variety of the living organisms found in in a given geographical area, that is called biodiversity of that particular area. Let us take one example. Mumbai. In Mumbai, some animals are there, like some dogs are there, some cats are there, some birds like parrot, pigeon are there, and some human beings are there. That means they are different types of organisms that are present in that particular geographical area, Mumbai. And that variety of living organisms which are present in that particular geographical area is called as biodiversity of that area. Hope you understood. Whereas this many species, this many groups of organisms, it just did not come in 5 years, maybe 10 years, 15 years SNI. It has taken 3.5 billion years of evolutionary process. That means earth undergone till now 3.5 billion years of evolutionary process. That means this much of flora, this much of fauna, this many species, this many organisms, it is an outcome of 3.5 billion years of evolutionary process. You have to remember this. So one night may you can never be able to see, or one day may you can never be able to see origin of new species. So you need to understand, just to develop a single character, it takes a lot of time, and it has to pass on to one generation to another generation. So how much of evolutionary period it require? So I'm leaving this to your imagination. So that is a greatness of this particular earth planet, and that much uniqueness it is having. Now let us take why we need to classify the individual. What is the need for what we are classifying the organisms? For that, there are 4 points to discuss. The first point is just to identify the organisms at a glance. Just by seeing only, you can see this is one snake, and this is one dog, and this is one cat, and this is one rat. That means just by seeing only, you should be able to identify the organism, and that is possible because of the classification. If classification is not there, you can never be able to identify the organisms just by seeing them. Now, the next one is, it is impossible, it is very, very difficult to read about each and every living organism that is present on the earth. But if you make small, small groups based on the similarities and also dissimilarities, then if you read one organism of that particular group, that means you need not to read all the organisms that are present in that group. Just what are the characters will be exhibited by that one organism, the same characters will be exhibited by remaining all the organisms that are present in that group. For example, if you wanted to learn about dogs, the nature of dog, the characteristics of dog in Mumbai. Now what happens, will you read about all the dogs, will you gather all the dogs that are present in Mumbai? Just imagine, try to imagine what am I trying to tell. You wanted to read about dogs, then will you be able to go to every dog? It is impossible. So what you do, just you take one dog, then you read all the characteristics and what are the characteristics exhibited by this particular dog, and that particular characteristics obviously can be seen in all the dogs. Hope you understood. That means it is impossible to read about all the organisms, each and every organism that is present on the earth planet. That's why you made small small groups. And if you read one organism of that particular group, yes, that means that reflects, or you can understand every individual that is present in that particular group. Hope you understand. And the third importance of a classification is knowing about evolutionary relationship. Just 2 minutes back or 3 minutes back, I explained what is the meaning of evolutionary trend, how the this many organisms are evolved, how this particular fishes evolved into apes, and how this particular apes they formed into reptiles, and how these reptiles they formed into these birds. Like that, studying about the evolutionary process, that means relationship between the organisms, and that is also possible only due to classification. Whereas the third, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, and the fourth important need of classification is to identify the fossils. Hope you know what is the meaning of fossil. The dead remnants of the remnants of the dead organism. That means once upon a time it lived, but it is not living now. So that when it die, it get buried into the soil and it gets sedimented in form of the fossil. Now when you are digging the soil, you found one fossil, one dead remnant. Now you need to identify what is this particular organism. Then how do you identify that organism? For example, I'll tell you, James Cameron picturized beautiful world that is called Jurassic Park. You must have seen, but have you ever seen any dinosaurs in real world? They are not existing, but still how he imagined that, because earlier these particular dinosaurs are existing, but due to the competition, because they are huge na, so they started competing each other for the food. So the stronger one lived and the weaker one dead, and due to the competition, due to the lack of the food, they were all extincted. Now there is no question, there is no matter of this dinosaurs, all the dinosaurs were extincted. So that is another point. Let us come to our point. Our point is what is fossil. Now this dinosaurs is dead, so they got slowly buried in the soil and they became solidified, and that solidified dead remnant, that only it is called fossil. Now how you identified that fossil as a dinosaurus fossil? Just imagine, that is due to that characteristics that you have observed or noticed in this fossil, you compared with already existing organisms, and that grouping it is possible due to the classification. So classification enables you to identify even dead organisms also based on their characteristics, fossils also based on their characteristics. Hope you understand. So this is the importance or need of classification. And students, in the next class I will explain about what is a procedure of classification. How do you classify the individuals? How do you name the individuals? And this all details I'll come up in the next video class. And students, a gentle reminder, when you are reading, definitely you may get one or two doubts. So please don't hesitate to ask me any of your doubt. And freely you just type it in the WhatsApp group, and immediately whenever I see, आपको तुरंत आंसर मिलेगा. ओके, थैंक यू सो मच.